I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Alright, we are still in the spooky season, and we've done things that are traditionally spooky. We've done zombies, we've done aliens, we've done vampires. Let's do something a little different. Still spooky, a little bit of the psychological horror genre. 1 Hour Photo, not a movie that would come to your mind when you think spooky season.
This is definitely more in the thriller subgenre. If you've never seen it, if it escaped your notice, because while this was a success, it wasn't exactly like, overwhelming box office smash or anything. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, if you're put off by horror movies because of like, oh no, blood and gore and whatever, this actually has almost none of that. This is a very thinky movie rather than a, oh no, constant jump scare, blood and gore, really messy, slashy, stabby kind of film.
But this is still an R-rated movie. And we will say this right now. We understand that there are listeners that like to listen to this podcast with their little ones. If you are one of those people, this is definitely an episode you're going to want to skip. We are going to have an R-rated conversation that's going to deal with a lot of heavy subjects. Trigger warning for everything right now. Because we're going to get into a lot of stuff. A lot of it is disturbing. A lot of it is going to be hard for both of us to talk about. So we're giving the big warning now. This is definitely not one that you would listen to with the little ones. We'll have something a little bit lighter next week.
Yeah, definitely not for little ones, and definitely not for anybody who's maybe not in a place to think about deep topics you might have to discuss with a therapist. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we're going to be dealing with some hard subjects. So like I said, trigger warning for everything right now. So yeah. 1 Hour Photo. It's a situation, it stars Robin Williams, and a lot of people more familiar with Robin Williams as a comedian or in family-friendly movies. This is definitely him playing against type. And it works in his favor because, he's this warm and loving person in real life, and now you're having him play this obsessive, borderline, psychotic person. It's kind of the opposite of one of his contemporaries, I would say. Like Jim Carrey would be the big thing that would come to my mind, because you see Jim Carrey in a comedy and you love him. When he started expanding into more serious roles, people really didn't know how to react to it. It would take him a while before he would really get that recognition and respect as a serious actor versus a comedic actor. But for Robin Williams, going from family-friendly Peter Pan, Mrs. Doubtfire, to I'm obsessed with this family and I am going to do horrible things to protect this family that I don't know, worked. He got so much acclaim for this film.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that unlike Jim Carrey, which I think it's a good way to kind of explain it to people who might be slightly younger and only know, especially on the Disney end, who might only have remembered Robin Williams for kind of like Aladdin forward, But unlike Jim Carrey, who he got his start with like the kind of, okay, here I am. I'm the goofy sketch comedy guy on TV, and then I go into, the goofy Ace Ventura movies and all that kind of stuff. And then after he was like literally the highest paid actor on the planet for a little while, then he started backing away and going into more serious dramatic roles. But Robin Williams kind of started that early in his career. He was and we've kind of talked about this before, so, longtime listener, I'm sorry for bringing this back up, but if you haven't heard us talk about Robin Williams' career before, he really did start out with stand up, and then he did, kind of okay, Mork and Mindy, ha ha ha, that guy. But then very quickly, he pivoted to like World According to Garp or Awakenings, things that were much more dramatic and serious.
Dead Poet Society, Good Morning Vietnam.
But then he goes through a period where he's like much more silly and family friendly. And
Well,
I
he had
think
kids, but
that's,
he had.
yeah, yeah, I think that was, kind of when he was in dad mode and he wanted stuff that his kids could watch, And so then that's when he starts doing, your Popeyes and your like, I mean, Popeye was like the first movie he did though, but because that was like right at the end of, I mean, right when Mork and Mindy was hitting it big, I think,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
that's like what, like early '80s.
1980 was 1980 was Popeye, but then by the time we get to the 90s, it's Ferngully, Aladdin, Hook, Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji.
Yeah, and he does like Flubber kind of at the end of the '90s, and then he starts through most of the early 2000s. He's doing like, Happy Feet and stuff like that,
But then you get like Bicentennial Man.
which is kind of one of those mixed films, which is like he's got he's got points in there where he's funny, but it's also kind of like a dramedy. It's one of those kind of things. It's a bit of a mixed
I mean, 2002 alone, he gets 1 Hour Photo, Death to Smoochie, and Insomnia.
yeah. And I think this movie and Insomnia are the only two like films that he did, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the only two I can really remember that he did that kind of do the kind of horror thriller kind of thing. He never really did like slasher movies and stuff. Insomnia is also not like a slasher movie or anything, unless he was doing like an over the top cartoon voice. You don't really buy Robin Williams as the bad guy. And the reason it works in this film, Insomnia is a bit of a different setup, but the reason it works in this film is that the family that is the target of him, elevator pitch for this movie, if you've never seen it, is he is the guy that works at the 1 Hour Photo place. Things you don't see anymore. But in 2002, they were still everywhere, although they were starting to be phased out. One of the first things said in the movie is that the mother of the family says that her husband is pondering whether or not they should get a digital camera instead of staying with their film camera that they have to bring to the 1 Hour Photo. And so, if you're our age, you remember, taking your little, rolls of film and dropping them in and all that. And I did see, and I want to shout out to one of the best horror reviewers on YouTube, because I did go back and watch his review of 1 Hour Photo to refresh myself, because he does maybe one of the best summations of 1 Hour Photo I've ever seen. Not a lot of people and not a lot of horror reviewers actually deal with this because it's not a traditional horror film. But Ryan Hollinger, if you don't watch him and you're into horror, go watch him on YouTube. I will give that shout out. But he talks about this movie and he points out, and I think this is a good point, so I'm going to steal it from him right here with full attribution, is that we think that right now, because of social media, which didn't exist at the time of this movie really, this was just before MySpace hit. We didn't have social media at the time. Maybe if you had your own personal website, you would post pictures of yourself on it, but that was kind of a rare and personal thing, maybe. Okay. So 2002, when this movie came out, most people still had, your own little personal camera, or as the little boy in here, the one-time use disposable cameras, where you'd get like 24 pictures and then you'd drop the whole camera off and you'd get the pictures back. Okay. So we think of social media, as Ryan Hollinger said, as the point where we started giving up our privacy. Because then it was like, oh, post all your digital pictures up here for the entire world to see and download and share around. But this movie points out the kind of horror idea that we technically never had that privacy, because anytime you got your photos developed, you were just dropping it off with some rando at insert local big chain store of choice here. He works at one called Save More or something that they made up for this. But it's very
Yeah, it's
clearly
basically
supposed to be a Walmart or a Kmart or every single grocery store had one of these in it.
Target, Costco, you name it.
Yeah, I worked in several places around this time that had a 1 hour photo kiosk in it. That I never personally worked in one, but they were always in the store and somebody else was working there, just somebody else in the store that I worked. You and I have both worked a lot of retail. So, I'm sure that you worked in places before in your life that just there was a 1 hour photo person. And he literally says in the movie that it takes like 2 days or something to be trained to work one of these machines. And in fact, Robin Williams was trained to work one of these machines. He went on a 2-day course in prep for this movie to learn how to work a photo developing machine, because that's really all you needed at this time to learn how to do this as a job. You get hired, they sent you to a place that trained you to do it, and then you did the thing, So any potential psychopath with stalker tendencies could, in 2 days, learn how to work this machine and then find and vet victims in this way. And not a lot of us ever really thought about the loss of potential privacy of someone who could do what the guy in this movie does, which is pick a victim, although he doesn't think of them in that way. It is a very, what we would call now, a parasocial relationship.
I was going to get to that, yeah.
Yeah, where he sees this family, sees their photos, apparently just when the mother and father get together.
Yeah. Like pretty much from the
And
beginning of their relationship.
we don't know exactly how long he's been doing it, but we know he's been
He said
doing it at least as long as from the point she's been pregnant.
he's been doing doing 1 hour photo jobs for 20 years. And he's worked at this particular place for 11 years.
Yeah, so we
So
don't know
he's been doing it for a while.
exactly. Yeah, we don't know exactly how long he's been following this particular family, But when we see his wall of photos that he makes of this family, he's got like this weird shrine to them of all the photos he's collected. And we do see the mother of the family pregnant, and they only have one child. So did he develop their wedding photos? Like, did he like snapshots from their wedding? You know, a lot of people at that time would put those little disposable cameras on the tables at their wedding so that guests could take pictures that they would then get developed, as well as having a professional photographer. Or some people who were like on the poorer end would just buy some of those cameras, and then they would have like a professional photographer just take 2 or 3 official photos of like the wedding party, and all the rest of the photos would just come from leaving those cameras around and asking the guests, please take pictures during, as you're going around afterwards. Make sure you get pictures of yourselves and the people around you and whatever, so we can. And they would not have an official photographer going around taking pictures at the reception or, any of the other events. So it's very possible that, if the kid is just turning 9 in this movie, they say, and he's been doing this job for 20 years, it's possible he has been following this woman because he's very fixated on the mother. It's very possible that he has been following this woman for long enough to like see her date a couple of guys, get this boyfriend, get engaged, get married, get pregnant, have the baby, Like, we know at the very least he's followed her through the pregnancy, the birth, every one of this little kid's birthdays. We know that part, but like, how far back in her and her husband's relationship did he start following them? That's another creepy thing we don't know.
You mentioned parasocial relationships, you mentioned social media. While that is kind of what we see today, people are following people on social media and they think they know these people, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, a podcast. You have this social relationship. You think you know these people. You think they're your friends and you know all these things about them. But you don't really know these people. You know what these people allow you to know. As they say in the movie, no one ever takes pictures of the moments they want to forget. So
yeah, and we'll come back to that because that's very important for the ending of the movie too. We'll get there again.
So he says no one takes pictures of people of the moments you want to forget. And so people only take pictures of happy times or things they want to remember. And that's what they put up on social media. So you don't really know the people. You know what they want you to know. And this is, and you have the parasocial relationships of celebrity or athlete or, damn it, politician, where you think that they're your friends and they're so good, you know all these things about them, but you really don't know them at all. But you think you do. And we have, stalkers. And, now in the social media age, stalking has become, even more serious than it has ever been, where people will say, I know this person, people will see, I follow this person on social media, and people get fixated, and I'm going to marry this person. I'm going to go there and confess my love because I know all these things about them. And then it's like, okay, now we have a problem here. And it's not just celebrities or famous people in general. It's also people you know. I can tell you, and Kiki can also tell you stories of friends of ours who have these lives that we don't know about because they never share those moments on social media. They're only sharing the happy moments, that person that family member, that old friend of yours that is sharing pictures of their personal lives, and you think, oh, wow, they're having the time of their lives. You don't know what's behind the camera. There might also, when that What happens before or after that picture? What happens when they press the stop button on that video? You don't know what's the arguments, the fights, what's really going on there. And then it becomes a shock. Oh, I can't believe you two did that, or this broke up, or you're getting a divorce, you're breaking up. You look so happy in your pictures. Yeah, because we wanted people to think that we were happy.
Yeah, and the thing is like, there are, like, even if you're not a public figure, even if you're just a random person, okay? If you have a Facebook or, a Blue Sky or, whatever, if you've ever started typing an update about, like, today was so weird, I went into the grocery store and I had an argument with the cashier, and then you go like, nobody cares about this, delete, 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 delete. Okay? You have edited part of your life. You're not even if it's just literally with 5 friends on Facebook, you have decided what you're going to share with people. Okay? You're not a famous person. You're not a news figure. You're not a public persona in any way. You're just a person sharing with friends. And you have chosen what you're going to share. Okay? Well, you have edited part of your life. And that's the same thing with kind of public personas. It's the same thing with nobody takes a picture of a moment they want to forget kind of thing. Or at least nobody knowingly does. We've all had that moment where we've, scratched out the face of an ex or ripped up a picture or whatever when we're like, well, that friend did me dirty. I'm going to, rip up all the pictures I have of us or whatever.
There was a movie that came out a few years ago that I consider to be the modern version of 1 Hour Photo. And it's a movie called Ingrid Goes West, starring Aubrey Plaza. And it's
Yeah,
a very, very similar setup because both Robin Williams and Aubrey Plaza are obsessed with a single person. With Robin Williams, it's this family from his 1 Hour Photo. For Aubrey Plaza's character, it's this Instagram model she follows. And it's both stalking and learning about these people and going to their favorite places and learning these intimate details about them. And it's the same thing, only it is in Ingrid Goes West, it's using modern social media. And it's amazing how the same parasocial type of relationship has kind of always been there in a way. And how you can take the same formula of a movie made in the early 2000s using, again, in a 1 hour photo and translate that into the modern social media age.
the really, really creepy thing about 1 Hour Photo versus something like Ingrid Goes West is that in Ingrid Goes West, she did, Ingrid is stalking, which is always wrong, end of sentence, period, stop, no more, okay? But it is slightly different in the fact that some of the lines crossed are a little different because the person who is the subject of the stalking in Ingrid Goes West is an Instagram influencer and at least understands that there is information that they have put out there of their own accord. Okay? The thing that is so extra terrifying about something like 1 Hour Photo is that this family are quote unquote nobodies. They are not public people. It's not like this man is like, oh, I got obsessed with an actor that I saw or, whatever. They are not public people at all. Like the dad runs some kind of like architecture company or something. I forget exactly what he does, but it's like that kind of thing. So he's a businessman. And the mom, I think, is just a stay at home mom. And the kid is a 9-year-old. Like, none of them are anybody who has chosen to share their private life in any way with the public. But they take their pictures to this 1 hour photo place, and this guy uses that to learn every detail of their life. If you lived at a time, or even if you just live now, think of all the pictures that are on your phone that you do not post on Facebook, that you do not show to anybody. You just take them, like, maybe to show to your family or your best friend or your roommate or whoever. Okay? You don't post them anywhere, or maybe they're just for you. All the pictures of the interior of your house, or where you parked your car when you went to the parking garage, or stuff that if you went, I'm going to post this online, that you know enough now to go, ooh, I should probably edit that or crop that out or whatever, because it has a little too much identifying information. Well, in those days, there was nowhere to post it, and there was no way to edit it unless you took scissors and literally cut it out.
And that's after the photo was already developed.
Yeah. And you're just handing these pictures. And he even says in the movie, because we get a lot of voiceover from Cy, the photo guy, Robin Williams' character, who narrates a lot of this movie. And you have to remember that he's an unreliable narrator, because the movie is shown in flashback after he is arrested, and the mystery of this movie is kind of, what crime did he commit toward this family? We know he's obsessed with this family, and then he's been arrested for something, and that there are photos of the crime scene and stuff, but we don't exactly know what went down. And the rest of the movie is you hearing him tell the story of what happened and how it happened, and thus lies the tension. But he says, he tells in the narration, that part of the kind of pact that you make with the 1 hour photo developer is, okay, they have to report anything that deals with, assault of children or animals, because those are illegal acts. But if you take photos of consenting adults doing whatever they may do, or anything else you may not want to share in public, you know, the pact between you and the photo place is that they won't ask any questions, they won't bring it up to you, they will just calmly hand your packet of photos back and not really mention it, right?
Robin Williams' narration does mention that one of their frequent customers is an adult filmmaker, this R-rated episode, a porn filmmaker, and he takes photographs of his actresses in various positions and fully nude. We see those photos shown in the film. But again, this, like you said, these are consenting adults. It is a business that he is doing, so they know no illegal act has been committed. They will just give him his developed photos, and he will be on his way.
Yeah, but he also says that, other people take photos of the birth of their child or whatever. And if you've ever been present at a birth, you know that if you're filming a birth, I ran across an influencer who recently decided to post some of her video that was taken of the birth of her child, because she is a person that talks about human reproduction in a medical sense. And it turns out that she accidentally forgot to edit or censor one part of the video, and accidentally posted things that she didn't intend to post. Oops. But that sometimes happens, and if you're attempting to document what is, for most people, a very beautiful time in their life they wish to remember, well, you might capture some things that you wouldn't maybe show to everyone in your life. but that the parents might wish to have documented, you know?
And we see it today where intimate photos are taken on the phone and people will leak those photos publicly. Those were never meant to be public. Those were meant to be private for that person and their partner or just themselves.
Yeah.
Some people take those kind of photos just, I want to look beautiful and I think I look beautiful doing this.
Yeah. And we have gotten to the point now where theoretically, you can take photos like that for yourself or yourself and a partner or whatever and not have to worry about, oh, great, where am I going to take these to get them developed? And let's hope that the person doing the developing is not a skis who's going to make extra prints of them and then take them home or resell them and stuff, because I hate to say it, but that kind of used to be a big underground market, was people who worked in photo places kind of doubling a negative and then reselling them to people who printed up amateur things. And, people used to be able to make a mint out of that if you were, but you would get fired from your job, of course, if people. And I think that, jumping just mildly ahead, I think that when the boss, good old Gary Cole, man, he
Yeah,
had.
yeah. As soon as I saw him on the screen, I was expecting him to ask Robin Williams for those TPS reports.
Yeah. The Gary Cole made a short career run at this point, just being like the boss that came in and was like, "Hey, can I ask you to get the hell out of my office?" So I think that before he knows that Cy is, that kind of level of creep that he is, I think when Gary Cole's boss character discovers during the course of the movie that there have been a large number of prints that have been printed off on that machine that have not been paid for by customers, I'm pretty sure the first thought in his brain was, well, I've heard the rumors about the amateur adult filmmaker that comes in here with pictures of his girls, women. Let's be clear here. This guy is not doing anything illegal. But, that he takes pictures of his paid adult actresses and that Cy has probably printed off extra things and is selling them to one of these underground networks for extra money. Because that was always a problem with these 1-hour photo places, you know? And I think he probably thought that was Cy's issue, because who is going to think that Cy is really just a guy that is stalking this one particular poor family and delusionally inserting himself into their life?
He calls himself Uncle Cy, like he is part of this family. And they ask him, do you have a family of your own? Do you have a wife? Do you have children? No, he has nothing. All he has is a TV and a pet hamster. He has nothing else going on in his life. And when we get to the end of the movie, there could be some reasons why, and we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Basically, he has no life. He has no social life. He has nothing. He doesn't use his vacation days. He doesn't do anything but go to work and print photos. And because he has no life, he likes to live his life through this family. And again, going into the modern day with social media, how many people do that? How many people live their life through the people they see on social media? Even if it's not a celebrity. Families are sharing their family videos on Instagram and on TikTok, and they pass by my feed. I'll admit it. And I see comment after comment. Now, most of them are jokes, but comment after comment of people calling themselves the uncle and auntie of the children in the videos. In this case, Sai believes it. You know, he believes I might as well be Uncle Sai to this kid.
And the thing is it shows you something about the psychology of this guy, because he doesn't insert himself as like, he seems to be more into the mom of the family in some way. So you would kind of think that he would want to be like, you know, if you break up with your husband, you could get with me, and then, you know, I could be your new stepdad or whatever, you know. But no, he just wants to be Uncle Sai. He just wants to like hang out with this family. He doesn't want to destroy the family. When we see him at the beginning of the movie, he just wants to like, he wishes they would invite him over for Christmas, or, you know, let him hang out and watch football on their TV or something, you know?
Yeah, and he doesn't even have photos of his actual family. We see him, and it is a great fake out scene because he's going through old photos. And if you have never watched this movie before, you're thinking, oh, he's just going through his own old photos. And he pulls out a black and white picture of a woman. And he goes to the clerk, how much for this? Okay, he just bought an old photo of some random woman. And then he's taking that photo out and saying, this is my mother. So not only is he creating a false presence in putting himself in this family's life, he's creating a fake past for himself as well. And again, we'll get to the reason why.
Yeah, but the thing is that I do know people who buy old photographs, and it's because that they are artists and stuff. And so they'll use those photographs to make art. You know, like they do like photo collages, or they'll do artwork where they'll embroider using photos and stuff. You know, lots of really neat things that you
or
can
just
do with
using
old
it as
photos.
a reference. Or just using it as a reference.
Yeah, this is really neat, and I'll use this as a reference when I learn to draw. Or people who do like old costuming or old hair, or, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's lots of uses for old photos, and when you first see him, you're kind of like, oh, maybe he's just a photography junkie. One of the things that we kind of didn't get to, but one of the things that this movie does so well, and that the casting of Robin Williams serves so well, is you would never, ever suspect Psy. If you were just a person wandering in, you know, a lot of things that comes up in horror movies or thriller movies or anything else is, my God, this dude is so creepy. Why isn't the victim running? And in this movie, it makes perfect sense why the victims never catch on. Because Robin Williams, you would never suspect Robin Williams. Would you? Ever? No. Because Robin Williams is the sweetest, nicest guy.
Funny story. He was not the first choice for this movie. You know who was? Jack Nicholson. Too obvious.
You would suspect Jack Nicholson from the beginning. If I walked up to a 1-hour photo booth and somebody who looked exactly like Jack Nicholson was standing behind it, I'd be like, dude, you are not touching my photos. You are going to do something creepy with my photos. I'm going to go to the other store across town. I don't care if it's less convenient. I'm not giving you my photos. But if you walk up and Robin Williams has that smile and that demeanor, and okay, he's shy. He's not bouncing off the ceiling cracking jokes, Robin Williams. He's that very shy, quiet Robin Williams persona that he sometimes used in movies. But he's still kind of sweet and kind of dorky, and, you know, yeah, you think, oh, this is a guy that probably doesn't have many friends and maybe lives alone with his cat. You know, but you're not thinking, this is a guy who's gonna, you know, he doesn't do this in the movie, but, you know, but you don't get the sense of, like, this is a guy that's gonna, like, kidnap me and take me home and peel my skin off. Like, that's not the thing, you know? So there is nothing about him that triggers in the mom or the kid, and the dad's completely clueless. The dad would have walked up to Jack Nicholson and been like, "Hey, my man, here's a bunch of photos. Do whatever you want with them." The dad's a complete Dorcas, but the mom and the kid, there is nothing about this situation to them that should or would, for anyone, trigger a danger response. And that's what makes this a perfect film for that.
And the interactions seem innocent enough. Again, he interacts with the mom by going to the mall. Oh, we just happen to be shopping on the mall on the same day. I happened to see you across from the food court. I just came by to say hi. I was just in the neighborhood while the kid was at soccer practice. I thought I'd say hi. Little creepy because it's the freaking kid, but it's still within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the kid is maybe the only thing that might trigger if the parents found out, but the parents never do. And the kid is enough of a kid to that at 9, you probably wouldn't realize unless you had been explicitly told that, like, random quote unquote family friends don't just stop and watch some unrelated kid play soccer. Like, but Cy tells him, I was driving home from work, which is believable because they've said that this is literally on the way home from where he works for him. I mean, they've already set that up in the movie. So he's not really lying to the kid in that this soccer field is on his way home from his workplace. And he says, and I saw you over here playing and figured I'd stop and check you out, in what you were doing. And as adults, we know that's not really a thing an adult would do for a kid that they weren't related to. Like, you might mention it later, like, I was driving past and I saw you playing soccer. How did your game go? You'd say that the next time you saw the kid, maybe, but you wouldn't stop and get out and go watch the game, and especially not a practice. At 9, you wouldn't realize that, but as an adult, you would. And so if he'd ever told his parents that photo guy stopped and, did that, then the parents might have gotten concerned. But, he didn't mention it to his parents, so there's no conversation to be had. And Cy doesn't say or do anything creepy. He just talks to the kid about, like, how's soccer going? How's school? Okay, see you later. He tries to give him a toy, but he doesn't try to coerce him to go anywhere. He's just like, I saw you looking at this toy in the store. You seem to want it, and your dad wouldn't buy it for you. And the kid goes like, no, if my dad sees it in the house, like, he'll question where it came from. I don't want to go through that. Thanks, though. And then he walks away. And Cy doesn't
Plus,
try to, like, make him take it or anything. He just goes like, okay, if you're sure. And then he walks away.
Plus, in the earlier scene, we see that the kid kind of feels sorry for Cy because Cy does not have any friends. He does not have a family. He sees this guy as a very lonely man, so that he does have this conversation with him. And he believes that if he takes this toy, now Cy's going to get in trouble.
Yeah, there's really nothing in there until everything goes absolutely sideways that the family sees him doing that would make the family go like, ooh, we should get away from this guy, or we should call the cops. And so it's an incredibly realistic movie that, unlike a lot of horror films where you're stuck like screaming at the screen, like, why are you running up the stairs? Run out the front door, The family never does a wrong thing in this. There is no victim blaming in this film.
If
They do
anything,
everything right.
It's Psy that screws up.
I mean,
Okay,
he is the villain.
Yes, yeah, but I want to backtrack one moment and to go back to something that you said earlier and something that just came to my mind. There's a part of the movie where he goes up to their house. He is literally at their house. He has their address memorized. Because he mentioned this when they go to drop off the photos at the beginning of the movie, he recites their address from memory. So he goes to their house, they're not home, he lets himself in, and he's just walking around their house. Now we find out that this is actually a dream sequence and he's just in his car. But the fact that he saw so many of their photos that he can make a perfect picture of their entire house in his mind, that is so creepy.
Well, here's the thing is, that was a thing that I was going to mention when you were talking about social media and all, but like I said, think about all the stuff you have on your phone that you've not really posted on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you post, if you do. Stuff that you're just keeping for you, And then I've got to tell you that if you don't know many YouTubers, like we know a lot of YouTubers, and there is a rule now among YouTubers, and I'll give you some free advice, listener. If you ever want to become YouTuber, if you ever decide to film inside your house, like as not on a green screen or whatever, pick one corner of your house, preferably one that does not look out a window, and only ever show that one corner of your house. That's why YouTubers do that. That's why they literally decorate one corner of their house and have a static camera and don't do that. It's because if you watch old YouTube videos, there used to be like lots of roaming around the house holding a camera, or today I'm filming in my bedroom, today I'm filming in my kitchen, and because they did that so much, a lot of people ended up with stalkers who figured out where they were via the layout of their house and also what you could see out their windows.
Also, why a lot of YouTubers use green screen.
Yeah, also why a lot of YouTubers use green screen, because if there are too many windows in your house and you can like see out the window or in a mirror or whatever, it tends to like give away too much about where you live. So it really is very creepy how much you can accidentally give away about yourself to a person who is determined to figure things out without realizing it. And this movie, despite being set in 2002 with different technology, it is very good at showing how somebody without the ability to hack your phone or use the internet or whatever can figure out about a person from theoretically limited data. And today it's even worse, because today you can pay just a few dollars and go on a website and buy something from a data broker, and it's horrifying. But yeah, the fact that Psy could mentally understand all the things that would be in their house just from having developed their pictures and looked at it. And the fact that one of the first things he says when he meets the dad of the family is, "You have a very beautiful house." And the dad doesn't really question it, because Psy then says, "Well, I've been developing your photos for years." That is one of the creepier lines.
He refers to the family as his best customers.
And at one point, the mother herself says, "We see you so often because I don't think there's not a day that we're not taking pictures." This is a photo-obsessed family. You see it. And in fact, Psy even gives the kid a disposable camera as quote-unquote a birthday present. And the mom just lets him. She doesn't like offer to pay him for it or anything. Like the mom's just like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing to do. Because she lets it drop that they're going to be going on vacation, and he's like, oh, you're going to want to take more pictures in order to lure them back so he'll have more photos of this family for himself. Because the store he works in is one of those big box stores that sells literally everything, groceries, camping equipment, it has a bookstore inside, it has a garden center, it has a, whatever. Um, the mom picks up a copy of Deepak Chopra's new book. Ugh, Deepak Chopra. Ugh, she has horrible taste in books. Ugh. She probably got it off of Oprah's book club. Anyway, but he sees it in her shopping bag when she comes to pick up her photos. So he immediately goes and buys it and starts reading it. And then when he stalks her to the mall later and makes it look like they accidentally ran into each other, he makes sure to pull out the book and make sure she sees him reading it, and then drops a few quotes in there to make her think he's really been reading it. And as soon as she walks away, he like puts the book down and out of the way because he's not really interested in it. He's just using it as a prop to lure her in to make her think like, oh, that Cy, we have so much in common. Maybe I should invite him over to Christmas and make him be Uncle Cy,
Mm-hmm. But all of this starts to go sideways when the photo machine has a malfunction. So the pictures are slightly imperfect. And he ends up having a very loud argument with the repairman, saying, hey, this is not a big deal. So some of the photos have a slight blue tint to it. It's not our policy. It's got to be complete ruination. Otherwise, we can let it go. And he has this big argument. It's like, he has a level of satisfaction he wants to give the customers, and that's where the boss comes in saying, hey, you can't be having a scene in the middle of the store. Stop it. This is also when we find out, the boss finds out that he's been printing extra copies of photos for himself, and he's been giving away merchandise, like you said, giving away the camera to the kid. So that's 3 strikes right there, and he's fired.
Well, he's also been taking really long lunch breaks and everything. Like, this is not really a great employee. You have a feeling that at one point he was, but recently he's letting his delusions and obsessions with this family take over. But the boss says, I'll be nice to you and let you finish out the week so you can have your final paycheck. But then you're going to go. And it's during this last couple of days of work that Cy runs into somebody and he keeps going, wait, I feel like I've seen your face somewhere before. And this woman's like, I don't know. I shop here a lot. Maybe you've seen me before. He keeps saying like, I don't know, like whatever. And then he gets to like, where do you work? And it turns out she works for the company that the father of the family owns. And Cy's like, okay. And then he goes home and he notices that she's in one of the pictures on his like wall shrine as playing in the softball team for the company that the dad owns. And that's where he's seen her face before, is she's in one of the like group photos that the family is in. And so her face has been on his wall for years. And he goes like, wait a minute. And he goes in after hours using his keys because he's been working there for so long. He's got keys to all the doors in the store. And he develops her pictures after hours. And it turns out that she's stupping the dad.
Yep, they're having a big old affair, and it breaks him mentally. His fantasy of this perfect family is ruined because the dad is having an affair with one of his employees.
Like I said, we're being told this generally from the point of Cy. because the idea is kind of that we're being told what happened from his interrogation, flashback.
We get
But
we get one clip of the family outside of this flashback in that we get the real family. The mother and the father are having arguments. You're spending too much time at work. You're neglecting me. You're neglecting our son.
yeah, so the audience, if they've been paying attention, has known for a while now that Sai's idea of this family as this perfect, wonderful family who's so happy is not accurate. Even when he shows up and talks to the little kid after the soccer practice, the kid kind of does tell him in his own little kid way, like, my dad has been a very neglectful father. He spends too much time at work. He's never home anymore. He doesn't really talk to me or my mom or whatever. And Sai just writes it off as like, well, your family has a lot of nice stuff, and your dad wants to make sure you have a lot of nice stuff, and that takes money. So your dad is working very hard to make sure that you get all these nice trips and that you get all the. Meanwhile, here it is when he develops these pictures that the nice trips seem to be excuses for the dad to sneak off to the other side of the hotel and meet his mistress in the pool and canoodle with his mistress while the mom and the kid go off and, ride roller coasters or whatever when they go to Six Flags or whatever the kid said they were doing. So even Sai has been told by the child and even the mom a little bit, because the mom lets it drop around Sai a couple of times, although a little more surreptitiously than the kid does, because again, 9-year-old, that things are not quite as great in her marriage as they appear to be in the photos. But Sai just wants to believe the photos.
He wants to believe the fantasy that he's created in his head of this family.
And honestly, like you said, if all you see of somebody is the pictures they post on Instagram, everyone is living a perfect life. Unless someone posts a picture of a tree falling on their house or something after a storm, which some people do, like if something major like that happens in their life. But barring something like that, you would think that everybody's life is just cute animal and thing I ate today for lunch.
Yeah. Or if you just see a picture of a couple and they're just going out in places and, having general fun together, you think, oh, these two are the perfect couple. Look how cute they look. Oh no, so and so is having an affair, or they've been arguing every week and they're getting a divorce, or whatever. The life they show the public is the life they want shown. They want it to look like they have this perfect, happy life. Everyone does that. But then you get to the real deal, and it's not that way. For some people, they want to believe the fantasy, especially in Sai's case here. And he even, his last day at work, he switches to photos. The kid comes in back from their vacation. He wants to develop the photos he took on their trip. He switches to photos with the other woman, and now the mom has these photos of her husband with another woman.
The interesting thing is he didn't switch all of the photos, because that's one of there are more harrowing scenes in the movie by far, but that to me is maybe one of the creepiest scenes because of how it goes down. Sai does two things at this point, because basically the night before his final day, he goes in, he develops those pictures, he realizes what's going on, and he realizes that the kid has dropped off that little camera that he had given him. And he takes like one of the pictures that definitely proves that there's an affair going on, but that is not going to traumatize the kid too much, you know? And he slips that one photo of like his dad kissing another woman where they're both clothed and everything into the middle of like the kids' vacation photos. And then the other thing he does is he goes in during the day and he takes pictures. And I love this because the scene where he does the second part of his weird plan is it's a bit of a statement on the paparazzi, which used to be more of an issue than it is now, because literally now that we all have cameras on our phones, everyone is a paparazzo. Instead of that being like an actual job that people have, it's just like we've all unfortunately become paparazzo, which is even more disgusting. But in 2002, it was still an actual like job an individual had and would buy a specific type of camera to be. And they were professionally paid stalkers that would follow celebrities around to get photos. And so Robin Williams' character Cy becomes weirdly a sort of paparazzo photographer, but for his boss's like 5 or 6-year-old daughter, and it's so disturbing.
He goes to his boss's house, takes a bunch of pictures of his daughter playing in the backyard, takes it to his old job to give them, develops, says, hey, I may not work here, but there's no law saying I can't shop here.
There ain't no rule that says his dog can't get his photos developed. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
And the boss is like, actually, there is a rule. I will let you do this one time, and then from here on out, you're banned from the store. Okay? And so he leaves, and his coworker, there's one other guy that works in the 1 hour photo that Cy trained, and that guy develops the pictures and then realizes what they are. And they're not illegal or anything, but they're definitely, because of the context. And this movie is all about context. The horror is in the context. Because so much of what Cy does is not technically illegal, but the context of what he does provides the horror. And so he did not like trespass onto his boss's property. He stood on the sidewalk and he took pictures of the daughter fully clothed. There's nothing lurid about the picture she takes of the child.
She's just playing with her dolls in the backyard.
In her front yard, even. Because, like, the idea is, and that was still, we hadn't gotten so into our paranoia about children yet, that in the suburbs, children were not allowed to play in their front yard while their parent watched through the window. So, like, apparently the mom was home and, like, just watching the kid through the window. But the girl is, because you see in some of the wider shots, the girl is, like, in the front yard just having, like, a tea party with her dollies on a blanket on the grass in the front yard. And, she's wearing, like, a cute little flowery dress. And, like, there's nothing. If in a different context, these would be family photos, okay? But the fact that they were taken by Cy and dropped off after being fired is definitely meant as a threat of, I know where you live, I know where your family is, I know you have this daughter, and I can get to her at any time. And so the boss immediately calls the cops and starts saying, like, this is a threat to my family. And the cops agree. Given the context, this is potentially a threat. Meanwhile, one of the things that Cy has done, backing up a little while, has inserted this one photo. Again, not a lurid photo in the sense of nudity or anything, but a picture of the father of the family kissing his mistress on the lips while they are both clothed, okay, on some vacation, and inserted it into the kids' vacation pictures. And then he follows the car driven by the mother in which the boy is looking through his photos and just waits for the moment when the boy sees the picture. And we do not see the reaction of the boy and the mom initially, but we do see the car careen to the side of the road through traffic and almost cause an accident.
All we see is we get a cut to the car, and the son is embarrassed, ashamed, and the mom is crying.
Yeah, and she's holding the photo and her hand is shaking, and we see the photo and we see the kid looking like very confused, holding the rest of his vacation photos in his hand. And we can see that they're like his normal photos. They're not her packet of photos, because he would have realized that before they even pulled out of the parking lot. The creepiest part of it is that the kid looks in the rear view mirror that's on his, the side wing mirror that's on his side, and he sees that there is a car, and we don't know if he recognizes it as Cy's car or what, because he's only ever seen Cy's cars once, But he sees a car pulled over in the road, like, 2 or 3 car lengths behind them, just stopped with its hazard lights on, just waiting and watching them. And to me, all of the stuff that happens in this movie, just the fact that Cy is sitting there observing the car to see what they would do, just waiting behind them. I mean, we know he's been following them and stuff, and we didn't know why, because we didn't know what he was doing. But that shot of the little boy looking back and seeing the car just sitting there waiting is one of the creepiest moments in the movie, because we have no idea what Cy's plan is at the moment, because in the beginning of the movie, all we see is the detective at Cy's booking asking, "Why did you do it, Cy? What did the dad do to make you so upset?" And we know that at this point, we know what the father did to make Cy so upset, but we still don't know what Cy's crime was. And this is the point in the movie where, like, the tension starts rapidly going up and up and up. And you're like, we don't know what this man is capable of. We know he's done something to this family to get him arrested. And now he's stalking the mom and kid. We see the cops, like, break into his apartment and find the photos of the family.
Gotta back up, because he needs his motivation for actually going through with what he's about to do. Because he follows the family home. He uses his camera to zoom in as the family is having dinner, and he's waiting for it. Here it comes. The big fight where she's going to throw the picture in his face, like in the movies. There's going to be this big blow up, and he's going to witness the explosion of this family firsthand. They act like nothing happened, like she never saw the photo. The family sits down and has a normal dinner, like nothing is going on. And Cy just says, "What the hell is wrong with these people? Like, I just showed you a picture of your husband with another woman. Why are you not angry? Why are you not beating up on your husband? Why are you not kicking him out? Why am I not getting the conclusion to this story?" And sometimes that happens. There have been instances of a infidelity in a relationship, and yes, the family can move past it or sometimes ignore. Okay, You cheated on me once. Let it be this once. I will let it go, and we will just forget it and move on. But that's not the ending that Sai wants.
The one thing that they never answer in this movie, which they don't really need to, not everything in a movie has to be answered, but the one thing I am curious about is, what did the mom tell the kid? Because the kid saw the picture. We know that. And we definitely know that the kid either knows this woman, at least from being the woman that's on the softball team, whatever, or it's just, why is dad kissing that woman and how did it get in my photos? So, like, what did the mom tell him that he's not being like, Dad, why did I find a picture of you kissing a woman that's not mom in the. Because he's definitely old enough to understand what cheating is. And he's definitely old enough to understand that, like, daddy should not kiss woman that is not mommy. So, like, what did she tell him? Like, I'll take care of it. Don't tell your dad about the picture or you'll get in trouble. Like, did she be like, was she like, oh no, that's dad's really close cousin that you've never met and it's all okay? Like, like, I kind of just am curious as to what she did to shut it down and make the kid feel okay, to make that dinner less awkward. Because I know that me at 9, I would not have been able to shut up in that situation.
Yeah.
Probably would have bought a lie of like, oh, that's daddy's cousin and that's just, they're really close or something. Like, I was that kind of dumb kid. So who knows? Anyway, moving on.
So by this point, now that he's gotten this, now he knows that the father's been cheating on the mom and the mom seems to not care or just wants to move on from it. He's going to do something about it. And this is where we get the scene of the cops busting into his apartment and seeing that Sai has scratched the face of the husband from every single one of these photos.
Yeah, and they see, and they now know where all those prints came from. He's not copying the, adult film producers' prints. He's obsessed with this family, which the boss never knew. He thinks that Sai is only a danger to him and his family, and now the cops know better. But they did find that one of the things Sai had copied was one of those, like, Merry Christmas from the Yorkin family. And so they call back to Gary Cole and they're like, hey, you need to look up some customers of yours named the Yorkins because turns out that you're not actually the target. He's obsessed with this family and we think he's going to do something to harm the dad. And this is where we see that Eric LaSalle, who has been the only detective we've seen so far, is not the only detective in this movie. And this was my greatest thing, because I haven't mentioned this, but this was actually a first watch for me. I have been meaning to watch this movie for years, and I didn't really get a chance until we did it for the podcast. And the happiest point in this movie was where I saw young Clark Gregg!
Why is Phil Coulson in this movie?
Because every movie needs Clark Gregg, except for that weird Amazon War of the Worlds. I am very sad that Clark Gregg is in that movie. Clark, how could you? No, bad Clark, bad boy. Oh. So yeah, it's just adorable to see, like, baby Clark Gregg in this movie.
Baby Clark Gregg. Iron Man's only 3 years away from this.
Yeah, and he probably has less lines in this movie than he has even in Iron Man. He has maybe 5 lines in this movie.
So, like, yeah, the cops go to the mom's house. She calls his job saying, hey, where's my husband? I know he's having an affair. I don't care about that. He's in danger.
Yeah, because his assistant is like, oh, he's super busy right now. Maybe I can try to pay. And she's like, yeah, I don't care if he's off screwing his girlfriend. I know he's having an affair. You need to find him. It's an emergency. He's in danger. And they're like, I will set his beeper to 911 and we will find him as soon as possible. And she's like, okay, when he goes to have sex with his mistress, what hotel do they go to? And the assistant's like, yeah, okay, I'll give you that hotel right now. Because she's like, we literally need to tell the cops where he is. Like, someone is trying to kill him. And the assistant finally gives up, like, the hotel that they're in and everything. And we see that Sai has already followed them to that hotel and is actually very smartly kind of calling around and pretending to be room service and figuring out what room they're in and stuff like that. And this leads to the actual closest this movie gets to straight up horror rather than psychological.
Yeah, he goes up to their hotel room pretending to be room service, goes in while they are naked having sex. And yeah, he wants photos of them having sex, having their affair. He takes out a knife that he took from the store, a hunting knife.
This is the one kind of moment of levity because I have to point out how stupidly the Save Mart is set up in this movie. Because you know how stores, all retail stores tend to have a flow to them? The Save Mart has no flow to it because we actually see when he steals that knife, like when he storms out of the store, the general setup of the Save Mart, and he goes down like, first of all, you walk through the front door and there's the cashier and garden center on one side, which kind of sort of makes sense. Okay, I'll give them that. And then there's the 1 hour photo on the other side of the front door. Okay, that kind of makes sense. You know, 1 hour photos, a get in, get out kind of thing. Okay, fine. And then right across from the 1 hour photo on the left hand side, and most people when they enter in the store go to the right in the US because that's just how we do. Like, that's how we drive. That's how we, like, you know, most of the things, that's kind of just how we do. So most people, when they enter into a store, they'll go to the right to do their shopping and they'll go kind of counterclockwise around a store. But if you go counterclockwise, then it goes to all the stuff that they usually put at the end of a shopping trip, which is all your like big heavy items, which is your like camping equipment, your yard equipment, you know, lawn mowers, big heavy stuff, you know, hardware, things like that. To the left, which is usually when people exit the store, is groceries. We don't see any produce, which is usually right at the front of the store, but exits the 1 hour photo kiosk and goes right down an aisle that starts with cereal and then transitions on that same aisle into pasta and pasta sauce. Which, what? And then he turns the corner, and the very next aisle over is laundry detergent. And then 1 aisle past that is furniture, like literally couches and stuff. And then 1 aisle past that is like camping equipment, tents and stuff. And then we see 1 aisle past that is like lawnmowers and, you know, heavy machinery and stuff, which he never makes it to. But I'm just like, who designed this store? Because they were crazier than Psy.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's no flow to this store, and it just like my autism went crazy. Anyway,
It needed to work for the shots they needed for this movie.
yeah, but even for the shots in this movie, it doesn't work. Anyway, but yeah, he breaks into their hotel room with the knife, which looks like the knife from Rambo, by the way. And it's very weird. He's got that like Rambo combat knife, like that style of knife, which is kind of interesting. And he threatens him with it, but the only violence in this movie, I said that this was not a normal horror slasher movie. This scene contains the only actual physical violence in this movie, which is that when he bursts through the door, he knocks the mistress back, and the door ends up whacking into her head and causes a little bit of blood bleeding. And then somewhere around this point in the movie, and I forget whether it comes before this scene or later when Sai is reflecting on this scene, there is a kind of jump scare as Sai has a dream and blood flows from his eyes. And those are the only 2 points in the movie where you see blood. And that is very interesting. So if you're the type of person that is like, well, I'm listening to you talk about this movie, but I would never watch this movie because I don't like horror movies because they're too bloody and gore. Literally, the only time you see blood in this movie is once in a dream sequence where it's kind of like a 10-second jump scare in that dream sequence. And then once where a woman kind of bangs her head into a door and it kind of leaves a tiny little cut on her head and there's like a tiny little dribble of blood, which I find fascinating how much the horror in this movie is the horror of the context rather than any violence being done.
Yeah, again, he is forcing the husband and his mistress to simulate sexual acts. Like, he doesn't want them to actually do anything,
They're
but he
not
wants
allowed
it,
to touch each other. He's very clear about that. He does not want them to physically touch each other at any point.
but make it look like they are.
Yeah, he wants the angles in his camera to make it look like they're touching. And he wants them to smile because it's supposed to look fun. It's supposed to look like a game.
Like a couple would take photos of themselves. They're smiling. Even, yes, couples will take intimate photos like that of each other, of themselves. And yeah, they're smiling because, it's two people that are having fun together. And he wants that image of two people having fun with each other in a sexual way, but not actually having sexual contact.
Because you have a feeling that one of the reasons, this is the point where you get the idea that maybe the reason that Sai doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife or a partner of any sort is maybe because he is uncomfortable with physical affection. And we will find out later that that's probably the case and why that is the case. But the fact that he is so adamant that they don't touch each other. And Robin Williams is really good in this scene. I have to talk about the acting in this scene because, of course, the couple is terrified. He has threatened them with the knife, even though he has done no actual violence beyond just accidentally kind of hitting her with the door when he bust in. It wasn't his intention. He just shoved his way through the door and she got clocked by it, but he wasn't aiming for her. But he does kind of threaten them with the knife in a kind of vague way. And he begins to curse at this point. He raises his voice. It's the first time Sai has actually been loud and angry in the movie. He's been very shy and very soft-spoken at every other point in the movie until we get to the scene inside this hotel room. And finally, he's cursing, he's yelling, he's a different person. He's a different persona. And Robin Williams plays that transition very well, and you can tell this is not natural to him. He doesn't like it.
He even, as he is yelling at these two people to perform these acts, he's like turning his eyes away from it. He's like covering himself. He's kind of wincing at his own self, forcing these two people to do it.
Even when he's clicking the button on the camera to, take the pictures and stuff, half of the time he's not even looking through the lens, you notice, if you're looking closely. He's kind of lining up the camera, but when he actually snaps the pictures, he kind of blinks and winces and turns away. You get the feeling that he does not want to be doing the thing he is doing. And of course, the two people, the husband and the mistress are crying. I mean, she's crying. The husband has kind of locked up. He's not really crying so much as he's kind of disconnected and dissociated himself from the situation. He's following orders, but mentally you can tell he's not really there anymore.
Yeah, he's covering his face with his arms, like he's not even there, trying
Yeah.
to pretend he's anywhere else.
Sai is screaming at them, "Why are you crying? This is supposed to be fun. It's a game. And then finally, Sai just leaves and he goes back to the hotel room he rented. Then he wakes up a little bit later, uh, as he realizes that he's seeing police lights through the window. And he begins to run, and the cops are trying to find him. They get up, they find the knife. It doesn't have any blood on it. They find the knife in the room, but Sai isn't there. And they also find a camera. And we remember from the beginning of the movie that when Sai was arrested, he asks if he can see the pictures that he took. And he gets no answer at the beginning. And Eric LaSalle's character goes to chase Sai because Sai, now in his escape, has triggered one of the emergency exits and set off the alarm in the hotel. Eric LaSalle goes to chase him, and Clark Gregg goes to find what has happened to the father and the mistress. Honestly, I would have thought the father and the mistress would have been the people you would have tried to find first, since they were the ones in danger, but I don't know, cops be copping. So Clark Gregg finds the father and the mistress, and they are absolutely traumatized, but physically unharmed. I mean, mentally they're toast. But physically, Sai did not harm them other than, the one little thing that happened to the woman's head when he broke in. He never touched them with the knife. He never hit them. He never. And we follow Sai as he runs from the police, and he almost makes it. And it's really interesting the way that that's shot, like a heroic escape almost, because we're seeing
Yeah,
it from Sai's perspective. But of course, he doesn't make it. And as he gets arrested, what does he say?
I just took pictures.
I just took pictures. I mean, he didn't hurt him. He just took pictures. And finally we get the reveal of kind of why Sai is the way he is. And once again, it may be, and we say this a lot on the show, but it may be an explanation, but it's not an excuse.
And yeah, this is the biggest trigger warning we've probably ever done on this show. Seriously, we're not going to dance around it. We're going to talk about it. This does involve children and inappropriate things with children. Trigger warning. If that is a sensitive subject for you, please turn off this podcast now because we are going to go into it.
We find out why Sai does not have any pictures of his family or anything, and it was because his father, presumably with his mother's knowledge, if there was a mother in his life, his father took photos of him when he was a child.
Doing acts, sexual acts. He says, he asked the cop, "Are you a family man?" And the cop, he doesn't answer. Well, he says, this father didn't appreciate his family. He had everything. He had a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, a beautiful child. He had it all, and he took it for granted. You don't take your family for granted like that. And he needed to be taught a lesson in that. When you have a family, you respect them. You don't do things to harm them. And then he goes into his story of you don't neglect your children. You don't force them to do things that they don't want to do. You don't abuse them. You don't force them to do sexual things that they don't want to do. The short end of it is we assume, based on the context of how Sai is saying it, that his father took pictures of him as a young child performing sexual acts.
we don't know the extent. We don't know if there were other people involved. We don't know if it was just images or, if the father did anything else. But we know that it involved cameras and Psy, and that he was underage. And we assume, because of the way he was acting in the hotel room, that he was reenacting things his father did. So the the film does not explicitly lay it out as far as saying it word for word, but if you are a savvy viewer of movies, the idea is pretty obvious that Psy was putting the father in Psy's place of what he had to go through as a child. We don't know if the mistress was a stand-in for anybody.
Or the mistress could have been a stand-in for Psy. We don't know.
Also, there may have been other children involved, there may have been adults involved. We have no idea. And that is terrifying and a thing that no one in their right mind would want to think about. But the thing is that then we get the biggest kicker of the movie, and this is what I think confuses a lot of people, but is maybe the biggest clue into Psy's headspace, is that because he was so forthright about everything that happened, and he doesn't have a lawyer present, he doesn't think he did anything wrong, even though he did do a lot of illegal things in the end. He comes clean with the cop, and because of that, the cop says that because he was forthright, that Eric LaSalle says, "Okay, I'll show you the pictures you took in the hotel." Psy says, "Oh, thank you." And we think that when he opens this packet of pictures, we're going to see these like horrific nude photos of the father and his mistress. But instead, what we see is all these images of close-up things of like the shower curtain and the handle of the toilet and stuff.
The sofa, the lampstand, just random objects in the hotel room. No picture of the father or the mistress.
Yeah, no humans at all in the pictures. Just tiny portions of objects that were in the hotel room. And here's the important thing that, again, the movie doesn't say, but I think is reading between the lines. I do not think there was any film in the camera when Psy was in the room with the father and the mistress. I think the flash triggered, and I think that's also the reason why Psy wasn't looking through the viewfinder, because he was never actually taking pictures. Like Psy said earlier in the movie, people do not take pictures of things they want to forget.
It's possible he thought about it and then just wasted the role taking random pictures in his hotel.
No, I don't think he ever took a single picture of those two people.
That's what I said, his personal hotel.
Yeah, I think he went back afterwards, put film in the camera, and then took pictures to calm down of small objects. Because what did he say at a different point in the movie? He has another line where he says, "People rarely take pictures of the small little mundane things, a used Band-Aid or a paper clip or whatever." So he took pictures of the small little mundane things to calm himself down after doing a thing he didn't want to do, but he felt like he needed to do to teach the father a lesson.
And he says it. He's a bad husband and he's a bad father. So he felt that that man needed to be punished. And if his wife wasn't going to do it, he was.
So he went back to his hotel room and he took those pictures, and that's why he left the camera. There wasn't footage of a crime. There was just footage of a hotel room. That's why he said, I just took pictures. Not, I took non-consensual photos of terrified people. I just took pictures in a hotel room of random inanimate objects. I mean, he still did illegal things at the end of the day. He threatened that couple. That's also like, sort of kidnapping and false imprisonment and stuff like that.
He did threaten them. He said, I'm going to stab you in the heart if you don't do what I say.
Yeah, I mean, there are things he can be charged with, of course. And stalking is a charge, and they have plenty of evidence that he did stalk this family. They can also get like permanent restraining orders against him and stuff for the rest of their life, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure that after this movie, Cy will spend some time in jail or maybe in a psychiatric unit. The family will probably have restraining orders or protective orders against them for the rest of their lives, all this kind of stuff. There is stuff that will happen to Cy after this. He's not blameless or innocent, of course. But the movie leads you to think like, oh, he probably murdered people. And at the end, you find out like, no, I'm not saying that what he did was necessarily worse, but in a way is far more insidious what he did. I mean, that psychological damage to every person in there is like really deep.
Not just the trauma to the husband and the mistress, but the trauma to the wife. And who knows what messed up in the kid from all of this.
Yeah, because he was just like, oh, I'm feeling empathetic toward this guy because he doesn't have any friends and I'll be nice to him. And now it's like, well, who knows? Should I have empathy for people? Should I be nice to them? Could they, now every person I meet might be like secretly keeping pictures of me or something? Like, I mean, that's going to cause some paranoia in that child for sure. But at the same time, like I said, you can empathize with Cy while not excusing his behavior. Explanations are not excuses, and you can empathize with what he went through as a child and the fact that he obviously never got the appropriate help and therapy for what he went through to end up where he eventually ended up. It's a truly horrifying movie and a horror movie without being a gory murder fest. And it's also filled with amazing acting. I mean, Michael Vartan, who plays the dad, and Connie Nielsen, who plays the mom, and even the little kid, a kid named Dylan Smith, who I don't know if he ever continued acting. So many child actors don't, as we've discovered, But all of them did amazing jobs in their part. Honestly, we've talked about how good an actor Robin Williams is before, but this one is just such an incredible performance because it's so against type and it's so understated. And then that scene in the hotel room is just so explosive. And then it goes back to being understated again. I mean, just wow,
And yeah, and right at the end of the movie, Cy goes back into his delusion. It's him with the family in this lovely family photo. It's like even after everything, he wants the fantasy.
But if you look really close at that final photo, he is smiling really big, and everybody else in the photo, they kind of have smiles on their faces, but they all look vaguely unsettled. Like, go back and look at that final photo again and look at the faces of the other actors. It looks like three people who really don't want to be posing for this photo. And then Robin Williams' character is just like so happy to be in this photo. And it's a really unsettling photo, yeah.
It's like, hey, take a photo with your Uncle Bob here. I don't like Uncle Bob. Please, it's your family. Take a picture with Uncle Bob, and then you have the picture, and Uncle Bob has the biggest smile on his face, and everyone else going, yay, and these half smiles or these uncomfortable smiles. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it really does. And I love that final picture because all the other photos we see of the family together, they look genuinely happy. And then that final photo, the only person that looks happy is Sai. So good. So good.
So Kiki, 1 hour photos, and this was your first watch. Does this have the magic?
I was so impressed with this film. It was not at all what I was expecting, but I I really liked, as unsettling as this movie is, I really liked what it was going for. I liked what it had to say. And I think it kind of has even more to say now with social media and everything. So, yeah, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's up on Disney Plus right now, or I'm sure you can find it other places. I encourage you to do so. I will say one thing. If you've never seen this movie, there was something that happened. I had to look this up. There was something that happened in the digital transfer. And if you have a larger screen TV, you will notice it more. The image of this film shakes at certain points. It is not an artistic choice by the director. It is some sort of glitch that happened in the digital process when they moved it over for the original DVD digital transfer. And it has been copied over to every other digital transfer, including now to streaming on Disney Plus. And it is very, very noticeable if you have a large widescreen TV now. It's a bit off-putting at points, but kind of just avert your eyes for a few seconds and it'll go away. It happens at several points during the movie. It's annoying, but it is literally in every digital copy of this movie, unfortunately. But yes, Magic, go watch.
I'm going to say yes. Again, is this a traditional movie that you would watch on Halloween? Probably not, but does it fit the spooky vibe? Oh yeah. This movie is definitely spooky, just not in the way most people would think spooky in Halloween. But this is a great movie, and again, Robin Williams plays against type so well. And this is a great movie. Definitely has magic. Definitely recommend. I think it's one of Robin Williams' best performances, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, in a career full of great performances, this is definitely top 10.
As for next,
Tuesday,
what's up?
I got a request.
Sure. What do you want to? What's your request?
Can we extend spooky season just one more week?
I don't see any harm in it. I mean, sure, we can extend spooky season one more week. What do you have in mind?
Well, see, Day of the Dead is coming up, and I see dead people.
You want to do that?
Can we?
Yeah, I can't say no to you. So, yeah, next week, The Sixth Sense. Spooky season is extending into November. So come back next week for The Sixth Sense. And we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.